Hello, everyone, and welcome to Celebrating Cinema, a podcast for the love of cinema. I'm your host, Laura Gommans, and as always, you can support what we do by leaving a review and sharing your favorite episode with friends. Today, we look back at the legacy of The Watermelon Woman by Cheryl Dunye. 30 years on, it was a watershed moment. It was the first American feature directed by a Black queer woman. The film moves between breezy romantic comedy and a serious inquiry into how Black and queer women were written out of Hollywood history.
You know how hard it was to find these films? It's like one of the few race films that she ever starred in. You know, what's so weird about this setup?
What?
I don't know, it just feels like, a setup. Like, I don't know, all this dinner and
What?
And friendly conversation.
To mark its 30th anniversary, filmmaker Kiriko Mechanicus is joined by Justine Knijn, distributor at Eye Filmmuseum and the person directly responsible for releasing the film here in the Netherlands. Together, they get into why the film is so radical, why it's one of Justine's favorite films of all time, and what it understands about friendship. But first, a few things happening here at Lab 111 in Amsterdam this week. On the 2nd of July, our next edition of Fight the Power brings a screening of Palestine 36, with an introduction from writer and academic Özge Kalafato. On the 3rd of July, we have another girly pop screening. This time it's queer classic, But I'm a Cheerleader. And on the 9th of July, the next Schmutz Cinema, which is a night filled with queer-friendly art house erotica.
Hi, Justine.
Hey.
Thank you so much for being here. So you are many things. Alongside being a wonderful person, you're also a film producer. You are a film distributor, mainly, I would say, and a film programmer. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. I must be much more, but professionally, this is what it is. Yeah.
Maybe let's start with a non-professional question, which is, what is the latest film that you've seen?
I watched Gentlemen Prefer Blondes.
Fantastic.
Yeah, which is, well, I don't know if I thought it was fantastic.
Oh, please.
I really enjoyed it. And I was really keen on switching off my feminist perspective.
Yes.
But yeah, the fact that the hot woman, who is not Monroe, marries with the cop in the end really threw me off.
Maybe for those of the listeners, very briefly, what are we looking at?
So it's a film about Marilyn Monroe who loves diamonds, which I think is a really nice character trait. And that's actually her only character trait. She loves diamonds. And then she wants to marry a rich guy because she wants to have the diamonds. I don't know why she's going to Europe actually, but she's going to Europe with her girlfriend who needs to watch for her that she doesn't flirt or have interactions with any other man before she gets married.
Like the smart, slightly grumpy brunette friend.
The hot one. So she's her chaperone. And then obviously Marilyn gets totally seduced by a man who says he has what does he have? A diamond. He has this company for extracting diamonds.
Oh, fantastic.
In Africa.
Straight from the source.
Yeah. And then she kind of starts flirting with him, but in a platonic way because he's really old. And then what they don't know by then is that the father of the soon-to-be husband sent out a cop or like a private detective to snitch on Marilyn to prevent her marrying with his son. It's becoming really complicated by now. The hot woman you think is gay, like the friend who I was with was like, she's gay in the first second we saw her on screen, marries with the cop in the end.
Dang, what a disappointment.
It's a big disappointment, but in the end, Marilyn does get all the diamonds, which is a great end.
Which was the premise of the story, essentially. Yeah. So there's something so cute about Marilyn and her acting in this film is that every single time that money or diamonds is mentioned, her body just like, boop. Yeah. It's like she's
squeezed. She squeezes herself.
Her eyes, everything just like pops open. It's beautiful acting. Some of the most beautiful acting that Marilyn
actually,
that I've seen Marilyn
it's the
do.
First film I saw with Marilyn Monroe in it.
Really?
Yeah.
So now this is the beginning of your journey.
I think so.
Oh my God.
But it will be a hard journey because it will always be her being this hyper woman. but with great outfits, actually.
I mean, she's so good. She's so funny too. Like,
yeah.
she's one of the best comedians ever.
And I was thinking, who was this film made for? Because, I don't know, is it for housewomen to aspire this? Is it for men who want to lush over her?
Maybe a little bit of a combination of both. I think everyone goes weak for a little bit of glamour.
Yeah.
And I think everybody goes weak for Marilyn Monroe as well. But yeah, it's a weird thing to aspire. You would expect that in the end the morale would be, oh no, there's better paths to walk than the one that aspires to get as many diamonds as you can. But there's not.
Best way.
This is the way, the one way. Yeah. Oh, super nice. Well, enjoy your journey. I saw something completely different, which is really not about diamonds at all. It's a documentary called Master of Light.
Yeah.
By a Dutch documentary filmmaker called Rosa Ruud Boetse. And it's an HBO film. It's a very American film, but made by her, about this guy who, I don't remember where it was, Philadelphia. Maybe I'm just saying Philadelphia because we're talking about the Watermelon Woman today. But somewhere in the US, this guy who, grows up in a very complicated environment where his mom, but also his grandmother, are addicted to meth, I believe, and are dealing. They grow up in poverty, and he, on a very young age, is put in jail for wrong reasons, and then he stays there for, I think, 20 years. But he has this incredible talent of painting super realistically, like Rembrandt. It's like incredible to see. You see him just, imitate Rembrandt, and it's like an immediate replica, but then he uses this talent to paint his family and the people from his neighborhood. It's beautifully done, and it's also beautifully shot because it like considers the way that Rembrandt and he used light and sort of applies those techniques of light in the way the documentary is made. Rough, beautiful. It's on HBO. If you want to cry, you can. By doing this, watching this film. Today we're going to talk about a film that is a lot less sad, which is The Watermelon Woman by Cheryl Dunye. And I want to talk about this film with you because you're actually the responsible person in the Netherlands for redistributing this film.
Actually distributing it for the first time.
My God.
Yeah.
Starting a revolution.
I'm doing it.
I want to know why and how you are showing this film to so many people in the Netherlands.
Yeah. So I work for the Eye Filmmuseum. And what a lot of people don't know is that we also do distribution. Actually, as a way to share what we do in the Eye with the rest of the country. But it also makes us have a bit more attention to some of the titles that we think are really important. And this summer we're doing a big queer program on positive representation of queer people. And we also wanted to do something with that in our distribution strand in the summer, which is called Previously Unreleased, in which we show films or we bring films to the Netherlands that have had a good festival run but didn't get picked up by Dutch distributors. And the thing is, this film hasn't been picked up for more than 30 years. It actually is celebrating its 30th birthday this year.
So how does this process actually, what does it look like to redistribute the film? Because I think Cheryl is the owner of the film also. What does this process look like for you as a distributor?
So first you decide on whether you want to do something, or sometimes you get offered something. But in this case, we just decided on it. And what you're doing is you get in touch with the rights holder. And in this case, it's Cheryl herself, which she did very smartly. Always keep the rights for yourself if you're a filmmaker. Important lesson. Yeah, it's really weird because then you have to negotiate with the director of your favorite film. Luckily, her producer stepped in. Not that I was like, it's awkward, but her producer stepped in and we got to negotiate. Then you land on a price, which I'm not allowed to tell. And then you get the materials in. You're gonna make subtitles. I had to make a trailer, which I loved doing.
It was beautiful.
Thank you.
It's a great trailer.
It was a really nice process. What I mostly do normally it's not my job to pick the films, but it's my job to sell them to cinemas and say, hi, I've got this amazing film. Do you want to show it? And luckily, programmers haven't been sleeping on this film, so many people came to me, which I was really excited about. So everything kind of collided to release this, one of my favorite films. And I got to buy it for the Eye for a couple of years. And now we're going to screen it in cinemas all over the country.
36.
Yeah. Maybe even more.
Okay, maybe before we go into why this is one of your favorite films, for those who haven't seen this film yet, could you maybe give a brief feeling of what we're going to look at if you look at The Watermelon Woman?
Okay. I think the feeling is really cute, but also, how do you say this? To the point, or like really effective. It's a film about a young black lesbian woman called Cheryl. The film, by the way, is directed by Cheryl Dunye. And she actually plays a version of herself, of a young filmmaker. And it's her debut feature. And in this film, this young woman called Cheryl, who works at a video store, and to earn some cash for the film, she's filming weddings and other cultural gatherings. And she really wants to make a film, but at first she doesn't really know about what. And she starts researching black actresses from the 30s, 40s in American cinema. And she finds out that there's not so much to find because it hasn't been well documented. And she starts to be fascinated with this one particular actress, black actress, who is only credited as the Watermelon Woman. And she starts to investigate. And while she's doing that, she works at the video store. She's flirting with women. Her friend is trying to set her up with other women. That might be the feeling of it.
That's the feeling of it. What I find so exemplary 90s of the film is that it has kind of a sitcom-y humorous tone to it, where everything is a little bit like tongue-in-cheek, where jokes are like a little bit, to poke people, but also very lovingly and sweetly done. So there's something very serious and unserious about it at the same time.
I think that's so smart, or like so well done.
Yeah. And so why, you said that's one of your favorite films. Why is that?
I think it combines a lot of the things I love. I love cinema, cinema history, actually maybe rewriting the cinema history. I kind of love lesbians and its representation in film particularly. And Cheryl finding out that this woman is actually gay, she's researching, gives it a whole different dimension. Yeah, and it gives me like a warm feeling. The 90s representation is also really well done. I wish I would work in a video store. Maybe I would have if I was a bit older.
It looks really romantic.
Yeah, and really annoying at the same time.
So this film is known to be the first feature film that is directed by a lesbian black woman.
That's right.
Right? Which is, cuckoo, because this film is quite new. So I think that in itself is quite crazy. But then the beautiful thing that happens in this film is that, what you said earlier, it researches this almost ungraspable history that took place but barely recorded, and therefore becomes its own narrative or its own fiction. And the film kind of replicates this idea, no? Because it is set up as if it were a documentary, but I think quite early on in the film you realize, oh, this is a mockumentary. Yes, the character is Cheryl and she is the director, but also the acting is so like stop it, Cheryl, that you realize, oh no, this is fiction. But then it takes a really long time, I would say. This is a spoiler, so if you're going to see this film, please skip this part. But I think it's only in the end of the film that you realize that this woman that Cheryl is researching in the film is also fiction, which if you watch the film, none of it's, you're completely with her research process throughout the entire thing, because it is obviously the reality that Black women in the 30s and 40s were, not recognized as humans or as actors within the cultural narrative. So it does this absurd thing on so many layers that is so complex and so smart, but it remains fun throughout.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there maybe a favorite scene that resonates the most with you?
I really love the scenes in which they're in the video store and they're having a banter together. So it's mostly about this friend of Cheryl who's kind of intervening her process of making a documentary, and her friend called Tamara is kind of trying to set her up all the time. Well, actually, I've got a really specific other favorite.
Okay, let's
scene.
go.
And it's the moment in which Cheryl gets, it's really in the beginning, gets set up with this girl, I think she's called Yvette.
Yes.
And Yvette is this hyper feminine woman, a Black woman who is has a really feminine energy to her. And Cheryl is this kind of butchy woman. They go to a karaoke and the scene starts with actually another gay actress singing a song really badly. And it's so cute. And she's actually in the Go Fish. She is one of the leading actors in Go Fish, which is another great lesbian film from the 90s, which is referenced in The Watermelon Woman at the beginning. And well, it gets complicated here because Cheryl's love interest, Diana, is also in Go Fish.
But then also because she plays the role of the white woman director who's like the historical ex-lover or lover of the Watermelon Woman.
Rose Trush, you mean?
I wouldn't know the names, but I was looking it up today, how like all of these things were like super mixed up, because it's obviously about Cheryl, the character, having a relationship with a white woman. But then it's also about Cheryl researching the Watermelon Woman having a relationship with a white woman and how that creates friction for everyone around her. And this interracial relationship kind of becomes, the point where a lot of relationships break, or at least you feel that is a big taboo within its history. But then I was reading something about how, the woman that Cheryl Dunye herself, the director, was with, was like the woman in those photos that they recreated.
Oh, I didn't know that, actually.
You have to. So in that sense, it is fiction, but it is also perhaps partially autobiographical.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't surprise me.
We were in the karaoke.
Yeah, the karaoke scene. It's just so nice to see people sing off tune in a very and the bar is really nice. The bar, there's old dykes and lesbians sitting and flirting with each other and just hanging out. I think it's a really
there's
nice.
Constant tension, sexual tension throughout the film. I would say in any space that like a lot of women come together, there's either like sexual tension or immediate friction. You feel it. Yeah, you feel it throughout.
Yeah.
Cute.
What's your favorite scene?
There's two things that are very memorable for me. One of them is that in the film, there's very small, like snippet intermezzos of Cheryl and Tamara dancing on a roof.
Yeah.
Of them just like
so
going like for 15 seconds and then they move on to the next scene. I don't know. It's like the simplest way of just like uplifting everyone. Yeah, I love those moments. And then I think another part that I also really love, or I would say it's like very much a core scene, the first time Cheryl and Diana, her love interest in the film, make out, because it's like very playful and sexual and fun. And then they start making out. On the background, there's this videotape playing of one of the films that Cheryl is researching. So it's like one of these historical films, black and white films, where the watermelon woman is sort of giving a monologue about her value as a Black woman, or sort of like, she speaks on, I wouldn't be able to cite it now, but she speaks on her importance of being a Black woman, and, you know, sort of declaring how that it makes her worthy. And it's such a big contrast with whatever is happening in that like big lofty villa situation that is happening. And it sort of foreshadows also kind of the relationship that they're going to have. Yeah, I think it's beautifully done.
And also not to focus back on how hot everything is, but
It's
the sex
super
scene
hot.
is so
It's
hot.
so hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so hot.
Actually,
And realistic.
in realistic, that sex scene actually made almost that the funding was backed out. So someone wrote about this sex scene, writing something like, "This is the hottest dyke sex scene ever recorded on film."
Mm-hmm.
And then some conservative picked it up and was like, "How is this film state funded?" Well, it was only like a really small percentage of the really small budget it was anyways. In the end, luckily, it didn't happen. But yeah, it got a lot of controversy because apparently it was really bad having sex on screen of two women.
Well, to be fair,
To be fair, it's true. It should have never been recorded.
it was me. I almost stopped the distribution of the. No. But I was looking at the scene and I thought to myself, this film is from 1996. And if I think about other American films from that time period, I don't think any sex scene is as explicit as this one was. So in general, like apart from it being a gay sex scene, it is also a very explicit sex scene. So I can imagine someone being opposed to this form of, you know, explicit content. And then of course for them, it's very fortunate that they can say that it's gay because that, you know, only strengthens the argument. But I thought in itself, if it was a man and a woman, it would have already been super revolutionary.
In a way, but I don't know. What I think is most explicit is like maybe breasts being really in frame. But then again, I'm thinking of Paul Verhoeven, who has this nipple fascination,
A nipple thing, yeah.
a nipple thing. And I've seen a couple of the films by him before the 90s, and the nipple thing happens
Throughout.
also
Maybe
in his
it's
sex
Cheryl
scenes.
Dunye and Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah, maybe
who
together.
are,
Yeah.
who are starting the nipple revolution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I get your point. It's really explicit and it makes it really wonderful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
After a first sold-out screening of Sign of the Times, the series returns. In case you missed it, this is our night where film critic Hugo Emerzaal and Dan Hassler-Forrest pick a film from the century so far. Anything from art house to glorious pulp, and they use it to ask how the 21st century has shaped cinema. On the 20th of August, they present the Coen brothers' No Country for Old Men, and they trace how it foresaw the darkening of American life, toxic masculinity, and this new kind of nihilism. You can find tickets via the link in the show notes.
You were saying earlier that this film got picked up or became famous when it came out, but I think only recently it became more of a statue within queer cinema. Can you expand a little bit more upon that?
Well, I think it got picked up. It did have distribution in the US, but often films do get distribution and then they kind of fall through the cracks and just no one ever thinks of it because so many great stuff is being made and also a lot of great stuff is being forgotten, especially when it's about women. And I think 10 years ago when the film celebrated its 20th birthday, I read somewhere that Cheryl Dunye herself decided, I want this film to be out there still. So she kind of toured with it and she made it have a legacy. And because of this tour, some film material was found which she thought was lost and they got to restore it, which also makes it possible for us now to distribute it again. Otherwise, if the material's lost with film on film, especially right now, if you only have film on film, you you hardly are able to screen it anyway. So if it isn't digitized. So her pushing it again after 20 years makes it possible that right now we are still able to enjoy it. And I think she pushed for it, but I think also academics really love the film because of its status, but also because what it does as a cinematic, how do you say this?
As a cinematic masterpiece.
Exactly. What it does as a film. So I think academia, it wasn't forgotten.
Right.
But for the bigger audience, it did a bit. But after slowly, gradually in the past 10 years, its status grew again.
Right.
And now I think it was at the Berlinale again, but it was also because it won a Teddy Award when it was first released. And a Teddy Award is like the queer award you have in the Berlinale. I think the Teddy Award is now 40 years, which is amazing. 40 years old, so they got back all the winners.
It's so funny how when you mention academia, there's a beautiful scene in the film that kind of really makes fun about academia in like this brilliant way, where you see this film analyst or historian speak on this subject of this Black actress that Cheryl is researching,
and the stereotype.
Yeah, and the stereotype of the mammy character. I don't know. I think it's just like the very convincing academia language that's being used, but also these ridiculous things that this scholar is saying, where she relates the pain and trouble of being a Black woman in the 30s and 40s to her own heritage, which is Italian. Yeah. And it's brilliantly done, where immediately you recognize like this puha talk that we are all taught to believe as the truth or as critical thinking, as immediate bullshit, like burned to the ground. I don't know. I think it's beautifully done, and it also shines a new light on what research is and how it can be intuitive and also like really an adventurous journey that Cheryl, the character, goes through in like these random boxes and phone calls and meetings. I don't know. I thought it really made me think in a new way about what academia is and how it can also be distrusted. There's something kind of weird and radical about redistributing your own film so many years later now. I wonder how you feel about it as a distributor, because it is indeed true that films have, to an extent, most of the films have short lives. Do you think, this is maybe a weird question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, that there is a sense of responsibility that as filmmakers to elongate the durability of what film is, or that we should rethink the way in which we watch films and the longer lives that they should have?
Okay, so it's two questions actually. Maybe if filmmakers have a responsibility in keeping their films alive,
filmmakers, but also the industry. If we need to reshape and rethink about how we relate so much on like new releases and stuff, and obviously a big part of your work is kind of going against that. But what you just said about Cheryl redistributing her own film, I feel like that's the first time I hear that of a filmmaker doing that.
I think filmmakers who have this legacy, who have a legacy of a big oeuvre being picked up again and again after they release something new, it happens kind of automatically. So they don't really have to do it. And especially in an industry in which Black women, like lesbians in general, aren't really looked after. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me she has to do it herself. And I do think institutions such as the Eye have a responsibility as well to pick these films and lift them up again. And for us, it's only in the Netherlands, but I think it does contribute, to an industry that looks back on film history and isn't obsessed only with what's new.
And maybe that's a responsibility that you carry also with your initiative, the Pottenkijkers.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want to talk about that a little?
Yeah, sure. So Pottenkijkers is this initiative we started a couple years back together with two friends who I worked with at the Uitkijk, Ted and Noor. We organize film screenings, mostly in the Uitkijk, but it could be somewhere else, with lesbian or queer films. And what we find important is to mostly do or show stuff that you can't see online or that you wouldn't stumble upon. And we also like to combine it with the bigger titles such as Carol or Portrait of a Lady on Fire. But we get most excited about the films that my friends haven't even heard of. And also we haven't even heard of ourselves, and we kind of go down the rabbit hole of lesbian film history. And we try to show them to a lesbian audience and everyone who's interested and loving to the community. I don't think our little Pottekijkers screenings contribute to or like have a large part in getting these films back. But I do think it's important to see them together with the lesbian audience and to feel them, actually, to feel in the cinema room that you're watching it with the same eyes and you're watching it with the same humor and laugh together. It feels safe to laugh and also make fun of yourself. And if I think in The Watermelon Woman, but in many lesbian films, lesbians are making fun of themselves a lot. And if other people than lesbians are laughing at you, it's laughing at someone instead of lovingly making fun of yourself. I think that's really important. But also like knowing where you come from, the film history, knowing that most of these films are like were made in obscure ways with little to no money. They actually do have this same quality to it, all of them, all those films from the 90s, which is really free because they're not obliged to do a particular thing to satisfy a big audience. And that's why I also think The Watermelon Woman does satisfy actually a bigger audience. Or I think it's really amazing that it does that. That it gives, while not being really non-linear or linear, it makes it, I don't know. But maybe I think it's a mainstream film relatively.
We are making it a mainstream film in the Netherlands.
Exactly.
You're single-handedly turning it into a mainstream. What do you hope that this first release in the Netherlands of this film will do this country?
I never think of the releases we do as with having a goal, but I would really want people to know about this history, also about knowing about Cheryl Dunye actually, but also I want people to see all the nuances of a lesbian Black woman, because there's many different ways to be. I'm not speaking as a Black lesbian woman, but that's what the film tells you, and it also confronts you with it, that you can have different views on anything basically, and that's okay. But it's interesting to think of what's your goal with it, but it's really not forgetting this film and its importance, but also have fun with it.
Yeah, people are gonna have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so it's
probably an obvious answer, but why do you think cinema has struggled so much to reproduce films like The Watermelon Woman? It hasn't opened up a space for more Black queer filmmakers or female filmmakers in general, because you were also saying how like it's normally the new queer movement that's going on, but it's
the new queer cinema movement.
Yeah, but it's mainly like queer male white directors that are getting the spotlight, or these bigger budgets that actually make it to a larger audience.
Yeah, I think with cinema, it's all about money in the end, because it just costs a lot of money if you want to make a movie. And like obviously you can, I think with The Watermelon Woman, it cost $300,000, which is nothing. So you can make it. But yeah, this whole industry, it is catered to earning money. And if it doesn't do that, people won't invest in it. And that's why people go the easier bets. And I think during the new queer cinema movement, which is amazing that it happened, a lot of male directors actually showed there was commercial interest in these movies. They showed how gay films could be commercially interesting. Yeah, you see that today still, which is amazing, and I'm really glad. But you also see that the women who are making film don't get so much attention. So maybe it's also a bias within the audience, used to it so much. And luckily I see a lot, like this year, there's so many great queer films on the release list. But I'm a bit scared that audiences, like, they only watch a couple of films each summer. So I'm a bit afraid that all the films will have a little audience numbers, and then distributors might not do it again next year.
Because people are like, I've already seen one gay film this summer. I'm not going to watch a second gay film.
Also, it's a money thing. People don't go to the cinema so many times, especially during summer. And it's a great way to get something out there in a relatively quiet time in cinema. But I don't know, I'm a bit scared that all those films that are now being distributed wouldn't be distributed next year because of...
Which queer films are you excited for or that are coming out?
Well, for me there's many. Like, I'm not gonna watch all those lesbian films that are coming out.
Don't bombard me
with
the lesbian films.
I have a lot to get back to first. Yeah, there's this one that I've seen at Roze Filmdagen about this couple who is having a baby. It's a French title and I don't dare saying it. L'épreuve d'amour, maybe? That's really cute. That's really nice. We're actually releasing another queer film, which is called Bushra, and I'm really scared that no one's gonna go to this.
Tell the people now.
I'm gonna tell them. So it's an animation film about coyotes, lesbian coyotes.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's animated really beautifully. It's about a filmmaker, Bushra, and she's Moroccan and she moves to New York to become a filmmaker, but she gets stuck. And that's because the relationship with her mother isn't resolved. It has gotten some friction in it because Bushra is gay and she came out to her mother, and in Morocco that's obviously not the easiest thing to do. And they start having phone conversations about it, which is really, really sweet, based on one of the director's own life and conversations with her mom.
That sounds beautiful.
And it's so beautiful and it's so sweet, and it's also a bit weird because you're watching animals talking and people think often that that's hard to watch. I actually really love the film, and it's really millennial, Gen Z internet film. We were talking about the new queer cinema movement, in which a lot of films really had space to do something else. They reinvented cinema, not just because it was two men kissing on a screen or women having sex, but also what we also see in The Watermelon Woman, it reinvented many, many genres because they got the space and the liberty and low expectations. And I think Bushra is one of the films that is doing that today. Making an animation about a gay coyote filmmaker talking with her mom, and she does it so well, or like they do it so well. There's two directors. Yeah, so I can highly recommend watching it.
So this is the call to all listeners to have a mainstream gay summer. That's the new hot girl summer, a mainstream gay summer. Thank you so much, Justine.
Stay connected with us at Celebrating Cinema and Lab by following at Lab111 on Instagram and Letterboxd. Do you love what we do? Support us by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us climb the ranks of the podcast charts. This was a Lab 111 production, edited and produced by Elliot Bloom, and co-produced by myself, Laura Gomans. Music comes from Hugo Emmertsal, and the artwork is by Studio FFF.